Hey, what's up? You're now watching ForAllNerds, and on this episode, we review episodes 4, 5, and 6 of IronHeart. And our girl, Riri Williams, she's done it again.
Choices are made.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow.
And what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the For All Nerds Show. It's your boy DJ Ben aka Stains World, aka Black Boy Tragic. Obadiah was a bullfrog, stay woke king. And that's it right here.
Ridiculous.
It is. And returning back in the co-captain's chair is
Tatiana King, the Grand Duchess of Tech, also known as Tatiana Kang, the Conqueror, Doc Ocky, coldest winter soldier ever, Tesseract Thompson, T'Challa Bread, and he who cannot be shamed.
This is also true. And once again, returning as well, we have Miss J. Please let the people know who you are.
Hey, y'all. It's Janicia, a.k.a. J from Tea with Queen and J podcast, a.k.a. Womanist Race Nerd, a.k.a. Wondering Woman, a.k.a. Storm Every Damn Day, a.k.a. One of Them, They, Them Niggas, a.k.a. Well.
That doesn't bode well at all. And also returning to the show is the one and only star of his own upcoming 1 hour special that I had the pleasure of being at the recording of, is Mr. Chris Lamberth. Please, reintroduce yourself.
Thanks so much for having me back, y'all. It's Chris Lamberth from the Mundane Festival podcast, aka the Galvatron Don, aka He Who Maintains.
Okay, look at that. See, I knew you gonna get it. Good job.
Shout out to my brother Just Blaze, the Megatron Don, of course.
Yeah.
And my other AKA Just Braids up in here. So it was rough being on the Combat Chat show, folks.
Jesus Christ.
It was not always the sweetest time on that show. But that's why we started For All Nerds Show, where we're much nicer to each other most of the time. And we are back to talk about IronHeart episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
The miniseries is now all out on Disney Plus. Make sure you peep it if you haven't peeped it yet, because we are going to do heavy spoiling on this episode.
Yes.
And there are very big things, especially in episode 6, that might concern you. So if you haven't seen it, I very much encourage you to go watch it out now on Disney Plus, and then get back over here and talk to us.
Since I've been gone, I haven't had a chance to say my piece. When the first 3 episodes premiere, we have been seeing this season, but I have been privy to listening and watching all of the responses from across the internet. And now that the whole show is out, I just want to give a big you to everyone who has a problem with this show, okay? Because once this last episode aired and you saw it and you still had a motherfucking problem, that's your motherfucking problem. There's nothing you can tell me, say, do, show, or give me an example of that would make sense after seeing what we saw. This shit is phenomenal. Get the fuck out and thank you. I just wanted to make sure I said that because I was holding that in for a few days. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, that's all I had to say, far at least. We definitely want to talk about all 3 episodes. I fully agree with you, though, at least as far as we had a lot of and we've had a lot of reaction to this show on our various social medias, on YouTube especially. And one thing I do want to say is me and Janicia had a discussion last week, and I felt like it went on too long, and I probably dragged it on too long myself. And I do want to apologize to just Janicia and the listeners for that. And yes, you're quite welcome, because it was you had some very valid points. And I felt those points were even exemplified and exaggerated on the later 3 episodes, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then there's something else that you mentioned about how, as Black critics and critics, I don't like to say marginalized, but critics who have a certain viewpoint and opinion, sometimes we feel the need to defend these type of properties instead of critiquing them wholeheartedly, I would say, because even though we do critique them, and that was a problem that I definitely had. And then I also recognized this week on our YouTube, especially, that a lot of the trolls and the people who have negative things to say about it really don't even pay attention to what we said. Because you, Janicia, had a lot, well, not a lot, but you had your various issues with the show. And then people would come in the show and be like, into the comments and like, oh, this is terrible writing. This is terrible. This, terrible that. I'm like, well, sometimes we agreed with you on this episode, but you didn't even
you didn't even read. You didn't really
even listen. It's just you're just finding these reviews and immediately posting these comments.
Yeah.
Because that's what you feel like life is about for some reason. So it doesn't really matter what we say one way or the other. But overall, I still think that IronHeart is a very excellent show. And I disagree with some of the commenters. I was actually talking to one today because they actually did respond for a second.
Okay.
When they said, the writing is terrible. And I'm like, I just cannot agree with that. Like, no. And then they said, well, we'll be here all day if I pointed out instances. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't, because you can't do that. You can't sit there and break these shows down and be like, here's an instance where the writing is terrible. Here's an instance where the characters weren't behaving true to their character. Like, you might have issues with how certain things are portrayed, which I did as well. But as far as what the characters are doing, for the most part, I felt like they're written in character, they're staying true to their character, and they're well-written characters.
Yeah, no, I feel that. First, I want to say thank you for your apology. Thank you for being vulnerable on tape. I appreciate that. Something I wanted to add just before we move past the conversation that we had last week. And as somebody who has, as a genderqueer person who has talked about being genderqueer later in life, is something that, like, when I'm navigating in spaces where I'm talking about my queer identity as a queer Black femme, my voice is not as strong as it is when I'm talking about purely being a Black woman. And something that I would have said last week was that I was the only queer femme in the space, you know what I'm saying, with my perspective and my critique specifically about the queer Black femmes in the show. And so I just wanted to affirm that, like, when we're having these conversations with one another, there of course was the added stress of wanting to protect the show. But when we're having these conversations amongst people who are of varying intersections, we're talking from a, nerds of color perspective. A lot of us are holding additional intersections. It's just important that we try and keep in mind, like, where each other is coming from. You know what I'm saying? What intersection is the other person is coming from? And to your point, I love that you said, to a degree, it doesn't matter what we say, because if you are a fucking white supremacist troll, if you're a misogynist, if your whole shit is misogyny, misogynoir, whatever, it really doesn't, you're not listening. And there's nothing that we could say in our critiques. It's nothing we can say on a podcast that's going to make those people who are determined to trash something based on their bigotry. It's nothing that we could say that's going to shift that, because their determination is to troll. And I think that, in my opinion, when we become, and there's nothing wrong with, like, acknowledging it. Like, Tatiana, you open up and say, fuck you, or whatever. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that this is a thing that's happening, and it's a pressure that we feel, and it's a thing that exists. But we don't want to get into a frenzy of what white people are doing. They're going to continue this whole, this whole Trump presidency, right? This whole Trump presidency is a fucking troll. You know what I'm saying? And if we allow that to stop us from living, if we, when y'all do this show, you are talking to the nerds of color. It's for all nerds, but there's a central gaze that we at GAZE that we're most concerned about. And if we let that gaze be distracted and deterred by white supremacist, racist trolls, it ends up being white centric in and of itself. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that we've had time to all kind of sit back and, ponder that. And I also want to acknowledge the feelings of, like, when we're watching a show that features people who look like us, who share our identities, and we know it's being attacked because of those shared identities, it doesn't just impact the people on that show, it impacts those of us of those shared identities. Like, we feel that as well. And so that feeling to, like, want to protect it, that feeling of, navigating that fucking default racism, that it's a minefield, it's distracting, And if it's difficult, if you don't get grounded ahead of it, it's difficult. It can be difficult to do the work, to show up and do, you know what I'm saying, what it is that we know we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And it's draining. It's extremely draining. Like for me personally, because I'm one of the people who responds to a lot of people on YouTube in various places. And it's like to the point where I just block most of these trolls. It's immediate because one, someone else said this and I've had this discussion before, like, oh, you shouldn't live in an echo chamber. And I don't really have time for that. I live in an echo chamber of, the people who I fuck with and of what I feel are right-minded ideals. I don't really have time to sit around and think about what ignorance is spreading or argue about ignorance or have discussions about ignorance. Like when a discussion we always have on the shows and people will be on our comments talk about, oh, I'm tired of gender bent and race bent characters, etc. And I'm like, well, that's you. Keep on moving, bro. I don't have time for that discussion ever in my life, ever again.
Yeah.
I'm not for that.
And I don't want to correct your words, but I want to just build upon something you just said. We're not in an echo chamber, Ben, because as the discussion was last week, that was
definitely not an echo chamber.
Across, right, about different aspects. What is true, though, is what you said about having this conversation with like-minded people who are not in it to troll, people who are not in it to just be bigots and things like that.
Yes.
I think that's what's important. That's what people have to understand. And that is also a dog whistle to say that it's an echo chamber. Like that's not what none of this is. Just because that we actually see shit for what it is and we break it down critically and we use our brains does not mean it's an echo chamber. So I think that's a distinction to make.
Something else I wanted to say that I've been thinking about since last week is that your audience, this ForAllNerds audience is filled with a variety of different people at a variety different of levels of abilities to at varying levels of critical analysis. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to, we all, the four of us here, have come to this at varying levels of critical analysis. We don't want to water things down just because of the fear that somebody might take something that we said and conflate it to mean something else. There's nothing wrong with speaking to that. There's nothing wrong if you want to say what you have to say and then also break it down in smaller bites so that people can get it. Cool. But we should not be afraid to say the shit that we know is right, the shit that we know makes sense, just because somebody else is going to miss the nuance or somebody else is going to conflate it in some bullshit or try and turn it around and flip it around on us. You know what I'm saying? So we just don't want to we don't want to get into a frenzy over what our haters are going to say.
Oh, yeah. I pretty much like what Tatiana says, fuck the haters. I also don't, for the most part, don't think of them like that because I've had one last thing. Like I even was just stressing this with my therapist today, and I'm not here to educate, idiots. I'm not here to change somebody's mind. Like you said, Janicia, we have an audience who I'm here to talk to discuss things with, but I'm not here to, just for people who say they're on the fence. Because if you're on the fence as a grown person, I really don't believe you. It's like you've made your choices at this point in life. And so I'm here to talk about things that I love and discuss it with people who love it. Other than that, it's like, we can keep it moving.
So let's keep it moving. We want to talk about episode 4. And you talked about choices, Ben. And that terrible ass repass was a choice.
Why was it terrible?
They didn't really do it right for my man's John. John didn't deserve it.
They had a lot more money. They definitely have dollars right now. Like they have funds, and they sat him in the bar and ordered some pizza. Right?
That was wild. That was wild. Out the boxes, they ain't even played the pizza.
What's Shea Kool-Aid's character from Madripoor? Madripoor showed up and said, so can y'all say something nice about John? First of all, y'all been TVing and doing criminal activities for who knows years at this point, months.
Has it been months? I think it's been months for this crew.
Point is, you doing crimes with your hood rat friends for 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah.
And y'all had nothing nice to say about each other? And they looked at each other like,
John just put clown head first into the table like episodes ago. She
was not. She was just like, well, I can't say
it was a terrible ass repass for John. They hated that nigga bad. Like, come on.
I think he's one of the best actors on the show.
John,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember seeing him in Good Girls and just his presence. You almost kind of think about him being the hood a little bit, but I think that is the right casting because he's somebody who I guess he I don't know the age in real life, but he reads older.
Yes.
And why the Hood would look up to him.
My Parker,
Yeah.
Parker
Hood,
would look up to him and just and really, so his death. And I think one of the things that I appreciate about this series as a whole, it's a mini series, and it treats things like a mini series where like anybody can get it. And just because you
Yes.
like this character, just because this character is oh, I like this character, and it's like, oh, he's gone now. And now everybody has to deal with the aftermath of his death. And it's something that, I think trauma is a really big thing in this show, which I was pleasantly like astounded by, for a lot of characters, not just Riri.
Yeah. For them, I'm glad you mentioned that about trauma being like a huge theme along this miniseries, because first of all, that's a deeper theme that's not often visited in Marvel projects. Number one, and then certainly not one that has a short, but at least for season one. Hopefully there'll be season two, but a shorter lifespan, where you don't think that they're going to allow the space for that. But then that, as I had mentioned before episodes back, that it gives more humanity to the characters, whether they're quote, the bad guy or the good guy or the in between person. You still see that there are layers to them. They're just not a flat one note character. And I think that's what that's part of what makes these stories good, right? Having the tragedy, or you have to have some sort of conflict there, right? And in this case, it's that trauma that so many people in this show are experiencing on multiple levels. And I just think that makes it even stronger, because it gives you more depth to these people, makes you actually care about what's going on.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about how the memorial was kind of trash.
That shit was just funny to me, because I watched everything. I had a crazy trip back today on the planes and stuff, and so I had a chance to kind of just scrub through everything again, and I was just like, "Damn, that was a terrible last time. Like, there was no food or nothing, like, or pizza, whatever you said, cold pizza, whatever."
Yeah.
But it was just funny to me, but more indicative of like, y'all niggas don't really have a plan. Like, it was like it made it more apparent that this is just a slap shot, like just thrown together ragtag team that, like a broke down Ocean's 11 type shit. And I don't know if that was on purpose or otherwise, but like, it was just like, y'all niggas don't know what y'all doing. Like, it's a bunch of individuals. It's not exactly a team. And then, later on you see how them individuals, it's like 1 minute they did, 1 minute they not. So
this is not the X-Men. Like, this is not where they've been raised with Charles Xavier, and this ain't even the second X-Men Wolverine, where they're grown and they all had their own thing going on and they came together as a team. Well, this might be like that, but they never get a chance to form that bonds, because there's no real Charles Xavier here. It's a bad Magneto impression, I guess. And no, I just thought, I didn't realize how trash his memorial was, but I did like the opening scene where it shows John saving Carter, and then how that went into the memorial scene, because I thought that was a great flashback and a great last chance for a dude to give some great acting. And once again, like you said, Chris, for you to see why Carter looks up to him and why the loss of John is going to drive Carter completely over the edge, as it does.
No, it does. And with Parker, I was laughing also how he was plotting on Riri. Like, you saw that, like that the influence of the Hood and all this other stuff just really got to him in that space. And again, I think Anthony Ramos, he's done an excellent, like, he's leveled up in this role to be able to be palpable with the tension and really show like he ain't up to no good. I think, again, something that has been sorely lacking out of Marvel for a long time.
Janicia, you had something?
Yeah, I think they opened this episode with Riri and Natalie back at her house, right? Is that's how it starts? And Natalie is kind of trying to console Riri over John. That's his name, John. John's murder.
Oh, you're talking about AI Natalie.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe I said this last week. I don't know, but I appreciated the way that Natalie was trying to bring Riri back to reality, because Riri was being real hard on herself. I appreciated the friendship and the ability of Natalie to kind of be the voice of comfort and reason, and it kind of brought to light like their relationship and the ways in which Natalie is kind of a manifestation of Riri. You know what I'm saying? So like, while Riri is experiencing this kind of self-doubt, negative self-talk about, it was a really traumatic thing to kill that man when she probably could have grabbed him. But
I listened to you talk about that last week, but in the heat of the moment, though, and we all know Riri's a very tunnel vision person.
I think, just like, honestly, for somebody who was worried that a cop almost died when she almost died, I feel like that character who was worried about that cop would have went back and got John out the thing. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't track for what they've been trying to convince us. Like, it didn't add up for me in that moment. You know,
I don't think she was fully
didn't he
in control.
know that he got that?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Go ahead, piece of the hood. He knew that she had that piece of the hood, so she, you know.
I mean, he did try to kill her. So
yeah, he's trying to kill her. So he's like, oh, he left him in there. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
What, man?
No, I agree with Janicia. I also don't know, like. No, I would say that. I mean, I don't think that Riri was as concerned with the cop, but I get it. It's a cop. I get it. But
it was also in a moment where she almost died. That's why, to me, when she's like, somebody almost died, it just felt so, so
like
weird.
You almost died too. What about you?
Right. And in that moment, you're worried. Yeah. Right. Okay, so this is actually a perfect example because this was a moment where she almost died. It was a lot of things happening in that moment, right? Mm-hmm. So in a moment where she almost died, she's worried that this cop was almost killed or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And in a moment where she was almost dying, now they leave John in there to die. You know, it just, I don't know. I get the point that she couldn't breathe. I get it, but it did.
I don't think it was me. I think the suit leaves John in there to die, and she's just kind of in the suit.
Yeah.
I think Natalie is really about like that's why Natalie shows no remorse because Natalie did that intentionally. Like Natalie made her choice. Natalie's like, no, I left that dude to die.
Natalie has made it. Natalie AI's prime directive is to protect Riri at all costs. So.
Stakes are much higher in that moment as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of course. I will say that episode 4, I especially on the first watch, it was maybe one of the most favorite episodes for me because of the huge introduction of the magic mixed with the
I loved all of that.
Yeah.
Not like we've seen the magic in MCU, but really like again for such a short miniseries for them to be able to really have a fleshed out like detour, literally a spinning detour into a magic world. That shit was fire to me. Like for them to be able to build it up in such a short amount of time and it still makes sense. And it didn't feel rushed to me. It just felt like it was a fully built world that was always in the background. And that was the point, right? Just like how, like when you watch the Doctor Strange films, how there's this other world going on back there that you just don't see. They lift the veil a little bit, they go into the mirror and they in the mirrorverse, whatever the fuck they are at the time. It's the same situation. Like the magic is always there. The magic is happening all around you. And now we're going to pull you into the space. And it felt for the way Riri and her mom, when they went to that shop and met Zelma and met up with Madeline and like you could that shocked feeling like what the fuck just happened. I felt that. And I think that's good writing. I think for you to be put into the shoes of the main character and be able to feel like the shifts, like that those are, and I don't know if Riri's seen magic like that before, but that's a major shift away from everything she's known as far as I know. I don't know if she seen Doctor Strange doing his shit or whatever.
Not really. No.
I know she's been with Wakanda and them, but that's still tech.
Yeah, right.
So, yes, it's spirituality, but it's also tech. So I think that was the first time. So for her to be like, hey, yo, like I felt that.
I love that. And I love that her mom has always been kind of woo-woo. You know what I'm saying? So when the girl is like, she throws that thing and she's like, oh, I'm reading tea leaf. The mom is like, oh yeah, I could do that. And then she throws it on the glass and she's like, oh no, never mind. Not like that. That's something else. That's something else. Yeah. I like how they blended in that aspect of like real life conjure with the magic of the Marvel universe. That was dope.
Facts. And I want to also bring up something you said before, which was so strong in this episode. Just seeing Cree Summers, like seeing her, not just her voice, seeing her and seeing her essentially play herself in a little bit because you said you use the term she kind of woo woo. She always been kind of woo woo with her hats and all that stuff. So she came in with the Gandalf hat, and I'm like, yes, this is what I want to see. And like it just felt natural. It didn't feel like people playing a character. It just felt like this is what these people like. This is how they move in life, and it was just. And that's the other part about the whole bringing the magic in it. It was strong in how it was built, and it's fun. Like That's why I like Doctor Strange, at least the other ones. I like the Doctor Strange films because it brought an element of fun and just weird mysticism to it that you just wasn't seeing with all the practical stuff.
Yes, and the youthfulness of the girl.
Yes.
What's the young?
Zelma.
What's the Zelma? The youthfulness of Zelma reminded me, because Riri is doing all kind of like grown up shit. It reminded me that Riri is a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. That's the girl.
Right. So the parallel of the two moms and the two daughters in this, teenagers in this scenario, kind of helped to reground things in terms of like, okay, these are kids playing with like for real intense grown up shit, you know?
Yeah. Casually distressing Dormammu, which is in the 5th episode.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, I really love this too, because we talked about this last week, how this series has grown this whole world around Riri, full of all these characters that we'd never seen before. And a lot of them are very well developed, especially like Zelma and Madeline.
Yep.
Yeah, because I love how there's all this stuff like, oh, you could have raised me, back there with Dr. Strange at Comatage, and then there's all the little mentions of magic, you see her performing magic in the same way that Doctor Strange and others have done.
Second nature.
And then that was the other thing I loved, the second nature about it, is how her mom, like you said, not only is her mom, got her own version of magic, but just how accepting both her mom and Riri are of this, because they live in the Marvel universe.
Right.
And that was really great writing to me. It's like where they're not sitting there like, oh my God, and I'm running around the magic room like, what just happened? Oh, no, what's this? And it's more like, okay, that was a little weird.
That happened.
But I get it. I always knew you were kind of magical, Kree. And now I know you really are. And of course, your daughter is. And, we've all seen Doctor Strange on television at this point for years upon years. I'm sure Scarlet Witch and most of the other, there's quite a few known magic users in the Marvel
even Zelma
universe.
said that. Like when it happened, and Riri's mom was like, "What the fuck?" She was just like, "Well, y'all never heard of the niggas?" Like, you have to and again, this goes back to what we say about the continuity of the MCU.
Yes.
Acknowledge that shit happens. Acknowledge that there's a fucking celestial in the sea. Shit like that. Like you gotta. If this happens, this happened, and let's live and have the characters speak on things as if this shit happened.
Yeah, because they all live in a very insane world, and that's why they have to acknowledge these things.
Right. Chris, did you have anything to say about just the magic and how you felt about all that?
I kind of just echoing what you said earlier. I really love seeing Cree Summer. I love the just very naturalistic acting. Just being able to juxtapose that magical aspect and have it grounded as well as just like a mother and daughter kind of having this conversation with exposition about their life and still being connected to what's going on. I thought it was great. It's just and then just as a fan of A Different World and all that, it's just great to see Cree Summer. Hadn't seen her, I don't remember, since maybe Atlanta, the Atlanta finale, I think.
Yeah.
So she's also been on Abbott Elementary. She's
that's
a
right.
teacher.
She's a librarian. Yeah.
That's
right.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's been doing great on there. So
yeah, just grounded performances. It's just like people just step into these parts and give fully realized performances. Yeah.
Sarah Hawley, I think that's her last name. Sarah Finn Hawley, the casting director of Marvel. We've mentioned her before a few times, and she's a goddamn legend. I will give her praises at every opportunity. I said it on Threads the other day that she's the most important part of the MCU because her casting. So the daughter is Madeline, right?
No, Cree Summer is Madeline. The daughter is Zelma.
Yeah, it's like you just gave this young actress a role, and I can see her, being right alongside Riri until the end of the MCU now. Like it's just the way that they keep establishing all these characters and giving these actors and actresses roles. It's just absolutely amazing.
Facts. Also in this episode, we see Ezekiel Stain become what I call White Lightning. So he gets the bald head. They put the shits in him, and now he got the lightning coming out his fingertips. So
I want to say Black Comic Nerd has a video where he dispels the myth that there's a large percentage of Black heroes with lightning powers. And
that's a huge.
I didn't watch the video because I'm just like, yeah, whatever, B. Don't give me that truth. I know the lies is real.
That truth. It's fucking real. And here comes Ezekiel. He's, you know that meme where they say we got everybody in Mark. He's the Mark in this situation. You know, it's like, all right, well, you know, the one white guy. But I guess he leveled up. I mean, would y'all consider that a level up? I mean, does anybody care?
I really was. Okay. So the only thing I liked about him, I like the connection to Obadiah, and then that's where it stops for me.
Yeah,
we spent so much time. There was so many other things that could have been done with the time that we spent making sure that this was a fully fleshed out, kind but stressed out white man. It was just too much time on this guy who's not a big enough character even in this universe. Like the payoff for all this building that we did for this white man is not even that great. And honestly, we didn't even leverage. All right, so he gets his strength from Riri, his inner black woman, right? So he gets that strength. The payoff for that should be, for me, like when Hood has him like doing his deeds, like doing his bidding, that should be funnier. That should be funnier. That shit should lean into more like, I got this white man, like, no, you're gonna do what I told you kind of stuff. Like there should, if I have to spend so much time learning about this white man's doubts about himself and how much he wants to help, but he's conflicted, and there was so much time spent with this. Give me the payoff of like laughing, like I should know him well enough to see why it's so funny that the Hood is controlling him. There should be some comedy in there. There's also a power imbalance there that should be played up, or there's some shit going on there, some dynamics going on there that could be played up for laughs for my personal benefit, because I had to sit as a black girl watching this show that's about the black girl, and we spent so much time on this freaking white man that we could have spent that real estate doing other shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now we have the Hood, who we later learn was kicked out of his home, dealt with all type of bullshit or whatever, has been yearning for a certain type of power that he now gets or whatever. We have this freaking Ezekiel who's a millionaire who lives in this modest ass house so that he can build fucking war machines on the low for his own personal delight and fulfillment. You know what I'm saying? That should have been played up for laughs. And I didn't get enough from that. It was like his whole purpose there was like, this is a nice conflicted white boy. Let's spend a lot of time with him so that you niggas could argue about all the time you didn't spend on other stuff. You know? All right, I'm done. Yeah, his existence, the amount of time spent was infuriating.
Oh wow, I didn't think of it like that. I felt the scene when they.
That's what I do, Chris. You know that.
No, I'm aware. I think though, I thought that scene was episode 5 or 6 when we meet Parker's dad.
That's later on. That's 6.
Okay,
that's 6. That's the last episode.
Yeah. Okay, so we can't talk.
We meet his dad in 5. Don't we meet him in 5?
But you know what, Janicia, when you said what was the purpose and all that, and it's actually a really simple purpose, and I mean, this is the only thing that makes sense to me. It was to give her like a B-level rival that can always pop up.
But B level doesn't deserve that amount of time. That's the issue for me.
Like,
the amount of time.
Be like, okay, well, I'll get you next time, my pretty type shit. Like,
we could have did that shit in half the time.
Because my thing is, nothing else makes sense.
That doesn't make sense either.
I'm just gonna say, as a black man, I agree with both of you black women, and I think you're right, Tatiana, where adversarial character before you get to the big bad, and I think that confrontation, I just don't want to go skip ahead too much, but the conversation they have later on in the series was good, and it's that when you think that there's supposed to be this trust built that Riri and he have, and then for it to be broken, you could see the anger that he has towards Riri later on. But I understand what you're saying. They could have used that time to develop
let me ask you a question, Janicia. How did you feel when Riri, mistakenly or otherwise, did exactly what Ezekiel asked her not to do?
Have you ever helped to parent a teenager?
Yes.
It was giving that. It was giving, this is what teenagers do.
This is what teenagers do.
Yeah.
And
You
he should have just
told
been
them
all right
exactly what to do. You believe in them. Their teenagers are in this awkward space between childhood and adulthood, and you're starting to see them as somebody who can think for themselves and do and make choices, and you trust them. And they let you down because they're a freaking teenager. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that he was on the right track, Ezekiel, when he was like, you know, you're just a teen and you're out for yourself and da-da-da. He was on the right track. But then once he got juiced up on the steroids, on the electricity steroids, it seemed like the energy. I get the anger. Okay. She helped to ruin your life, that you had your cushy life where you're able to hide secretly and use a name or whatever because you're a white man and you can do anything. Right. Mm-hmm. She messed that up for you. But the rage and the anger, it was bigger than the real issue, which is that she's a freaking teenager and she's making teenager choices and, you know, playing checkers on a chessboard.
Yes. And I do agree with everyone so far. And like, even though I liked him when he was introduced in the first 3 episodes, I did feel like there was too much time spent on him in these 3 episodes. But in his defense and in the writer's defense, I will say that, you know, if you go to prison, I'm going to be quite upset. You know, like I've been incarcerated. It's one of the worst things ever. And so upset. If someone, teenager or not, I don't give a damn, dog. You send me to prison. I didn't want to go to jail. Like, prison in my life, which you've also done. You know, you ruined my cushy life, like you said, put all my secrets on blast, but you sent me to prison. So that's quite upsetting. And that's something that does happen in this episode. Now, his reactions and White Lightning, which we'll get into more in episode 5 and 6, I was not very impressed with. I would have preferred to see him build some type of suit. I know the White Lightning is from the comics, but it just did not do it for me. And there's
sorry. I'm loving you calling him White Lightning. That's
I was just about to say, is his name for real White Lightning?
No,
no I just call him White Lightning as a joke.
Okay. In the comics, he's Ezekiel Stain, and I think he has some name when he gets his electric powers. He does have a name,
and I'll pull it up when he does start utilizing his powers. But it's literally the same thing that happened in the show. Almost exactly what he happened in the book. So where he put all that tech that he be stealing in him and, you know, become his own bioweapon.
Now, something else that happened this episode that I did want to bring up because it addresses a point that a lot of people have had with this, and I saw a lot of comments through the first 3 episodes, is why didn't Riri just call up Shuri?
Bro, that's on my list of shit too. That's on my list of shit too. And it's culturally inaccurate. It's culturally inaccurate that she would not have hit her up in to some degree. The only excuse that I could think of for her not hitting up Shuri at any point in time would be the teenager bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like the just not thinking that
real reason.
But we know the real reason.
You gotta pay Letitia right.
Yeah, we know the real reason. But also, okay, now let me ask this: like, at what point would you say, okay, I should call Shuri, right? Because
immediately, nigga.
Okay, there's a point in every episode.
Let me finish it. Okay, let me finish. But like, as a teenager, as somebody who's, you know, back in, okay, you get kicked out of MIT. Do you call Shuri then?
Yeah.
Well, first of all,
I would have
Shuri and the
I would have never left Wakanda, but that goes
at MIT.
Right.
What you mean?
Right.
Okay. Here's my thing.
Yep.
Riri was literally part of a fucking war in Wakanda against.
She helped save the nation.
Yes.
So you don't think
she also helped cause the destabilization of that nation by building the thing that got stolen? You gotta remember that, and she mentions that as well.
Sure,
this is like,
you're right.
Yeah, she is, you know, quite responsible for a lot of destruction herself. So she has to hold that, and that's her guilt too, which she carries.
Right. She do gotta hold that.
So let me go back to the question of when do you call her? Because that's what I'm saying. It's like there's all right, you get kicked out of MIT. Me personally, I would have called her right then, but she doesn't. So then she goes home and starts building the armor. John comes along and recruits her into this thing. Now once she does the first criminal act, it's to her, it's pretty much too late to call her. So when would you have called her? When John first approached you?
Okay, you're making valid points. Asking. Yeah, I would have called immediately. Episode 1, I'm getting kicked out of MIT. Like, do you know who I am, my nigga? I would have hit up Shuri with the quickness.
No, I understand that.
If that doesn't happen, so we're still in episode 4. But that point, which I think is episode 5 or 6, where she goes to her mom and she's like, "I need help. I'm scared." You didn't want to talk to your mom. You didn't want to disturb your mom's peace this whole time, and you talking to your moms before you hit up Shuri, the most brilliant person that you know. Are we kidding?
To your point, Janicia, though, like the teenager stuff, it's like, I don't know if I should. Oh, she gonna be mad at me if I call her.
Oh my
I caused the war.
How do you know that? But you're right. The teenager mind won't think ahead. It's just like, how do you know until you call and let her cuss you out? Be like, girl, bye, right?
Yeah.
Like.
And then by the time she goes to her mom, she's way in too deep. She's done major criminal activities at this point. Like, you know, I know, Janicia, you don't like calling them criminal, but to the out and
criminal. I don't like calling them wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't think they're wrong.
Criminal, I get.
Definitely criminal activity.
Yeah, I don't think they're wrong either.
They're victims of their given circumstance. But
but I would have definitely given.
Right. But I think it's.
Oh, but also, wait a second. Wait.
What?
So she has this. Okay, so she's a teenager, but also she has a whole community of Black people that knew she was down, helping save Wakanda. They would have. Her mom would have said, "Listen."
Did those people really know what happened?
Yeah,
that's it. That fight with Kukulkan was isolated.
I think that's something we downplayed this the last review too.
I don't think people really knew about.
You got to remember, like she went to war. That like these are like
she didn't tell her mom shit. Her mom even said she didn't tell her mom shit. Sorry,
and you got to remember this is a war. Like like we don't see all of it on screen, but massive people die, etc. Right in front of this teenager's face. Okay. So she's coming home from that as we see shell shock still. Like she still has a lot of trauma just from that. And so calling them up, I don't think is now I will say this because I even had this issue when the trailer dropped. When the professor starts barking on her in that first episode, I'm like, motherfucker, I went to Wakanda. Like, shut the fuck up, But
do they know that, and do they care? I think that war was isolated.
They definitely don't know there was a war there, all that type of thing. So
y'all got me thinking about something else.
Cause think about it, like it wasn't like it was advertised. It wasn't on CNN.
No, it's very quiet.
Yeah, I guess I assumed that her mom would know, but her mom knew that she was at school, so who knows what, right?
And a lot of remember, she got snatched out of school, went to a war, and then went back to school.
Right. A lot of times,
as one does. Right.
Most heroes,
spring break is always wild.
Whatever.
She wanted to have big fun in Baltimore.
I was just gonna say most heroes have to eat that stuff anyway.
Yes.
You have to eat that stuff. I was in a war. They don't care. Nobody cares. We know
nobody cares in real life. You know what I mean? Like,
nobody,
nobody. Good point, man. Yeah.
No, that's for real. You go to war. Like I've been to prison.
That's
People
crazy.
don't give a shit. It's like that is the reaction. Oh, that's wild.
They go, that's crazy. What y'all want to eat now?
Yeah.
Like
what I do feel with all of her grief and her mom being woo, she would have been in therapy. You know what I'm saying?
This is true.
I feel like somebody would have
money's tight. Money's tight and insurance.
Money is tight.
I
mean, she was making bread, but she had to turn to the criminal life for that. And you're not going to talk to your therapist about, I'm doing big crime. Like you're not going to have that conversation.
I feel like somebody would have had that girl in therapy, especially she's high profile. MIT might have actually put her in some therapy.
She might have ignored her therapist.
But also, who's gonna make her? Like you can't make her, right? Like you say, hey Riri, we got this all lined up for you. She's gonna say bet and ignore the fuck out of you, right?
Yeah.
That's her personality. She gonna do what the fuck she wanna do, as we keep seeing over and over and over again, every episode to the very end.
I want to say who had it worse, Riri or Janicia from Tyler Perry's Straw?
Anybody in a Tyler Perry thing probably has it worse. I don't even know who Janicia is.
What do you say? I saw you put that on social. What do you think?
I don't know. It just made me think. I kind of feel like Riri's got a lot. Because we're gonna find out. We find out a couple episodes later that
Jania's not dealing with world-ending. I mean, her own personal world, but
if Jania go to war, I gotta go with Riri. People are underestimating this war shit. I think
that's what I'm saying.
I gotta go.
Why would
Riri.
you make that? I hate you, Chris, for even bringing that up. Not Jania from Straw, bro.
This war shit, I think, is being underestimated in this equation.
God damn, Jania. Oof, she went through it.
One last thing for this episode, I did want to talk about.
Please, I hope you're gonna say what's there.
Well, probably not, but I have him Parker breaking out Zeke is pretty much the end, and he rates him out of prison.
I was gonna say something else.
Okay, no, go ahead and say it because I just thought that was well done. I know we hate we're not the biggest fan of the time spent with Zeke.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get into my biggest problem with him, especially in episode 6. Oh my God. But yeah. What else did you have to say?
I think one of the biggest reveals, really, and really heartbreaking and really critical, like an analysis in like emotional trauma, was Xavier finding out about Natalie AI.
Yes.
Because this is when he first sees her, like, the suit brings him and then she pops up. And I was just like, no, like in my head, I was like, no, he's not going to take this good. And predictably, he did not take that well. And it's interesting because I did like a few people I talked to, they were split. Some of them was just like, shouldn't they, like, he be like not so harsh against her because, it's like a tribute to his sister and all that stuff. And then the other side, which is my side, was like, I understood fully, was just like, it felt like a violation.
Yeah.
And even though it wasn't on purpose, and even Riri was trying to plead her case that it was not done on purpose, which is true. It just, the manifestation just happened based on something she wasn't even calculating, but still, it was hard to watch from a like emotional perspective, because for him to see that, like, he had said, like, I think it was episode 1 or whatever, he was like, he is sorry he wasn't there that night, right? Because he also feels like he wasn't there to protect his sister. And all of this stuff that's happened thus far, and then like for this to be kept a secret from him, and then he sees this, and that's probably the first time he's seen his sister since she passed. That shit is rough.
Unimaginable. Yeah, it's a lot with the show that I've been. It's like I've lost friends, my parents, etc. But one of the people I still have in my life is my sister, and the idea of a hologram of her or something like that is, I still don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's combined also with the way that she pops up on him. That's like startling. He might have been able to handle a conversation, but all of a sudden my sister is standing there. That's a bit much. That might be too much for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Xavier still looks very grown.
I was talking to somebody, a black woman, about Riri and black geniuses and emotional intelligence. Do you think it's like, well, she's so intelligent that she has, I was thinking about like blind spots that that our geniuses have, or just people that are really gifted at things. And she was saying like, well, there's no emotional intelligence, the Natalie situation, the AI. Doesn't she think that maybe he might feel a way about that? What do y'all think about it? I just want to know what y'all thought about it, just in general.
I will say, I know she knew he would feel a way about it, which is why she hid it for so long. Because remember, Natalie just popped out. She didn't tell Natalie, hey, show yourself to Xavier. Natalie just popped out, was like, oh, I want to see my brother, right? So
yeah.
I think, I do think Riri understood the implications, so that's why she hid it. At the same time, I do also agree, and it's not just like just that genius intellect approach, and you just see that trope in media anyway, about like, you're so fucking smart that you have no emotional IQ, like,
right?
Because and they usually posit that with, unfortunately, like, they also conflate it sometimes with things like what's all, like, if you're on the spectrum, like they'll conflate that and be like, well, because they're on the spectrum, they don't understand the emotion too, right? Some of them are just assholes, right? Like Tony Stark, right? You're just an asshole, and that's just how you be. And then sometimes that is a thing. Like, I think it's very difficult to generalize that. I think is a lot of nuance there, but at the end of the day, I do think that tends to be the case, where they say, well, you're so smart that you're so driven on what you can do versus how you feel. We do see that. I feel that Riri is a bit emotionally stunted. Like, it's hard for her to even come to terms with her own emotions. It wasn't until later on in the series where she essentially gave in to her emotions and allowed herself to feel that stuff. And when I say feel that stuff, I mean sit with it. Like, she's been feeling away. She is in pain. She is sitting in that, but she never addressed it. She never gave her the time to grieve or any of that stuff. So I think like there's so much turmoil in her, on top of her intellect, on top of everything going on, that I think it's just hard.
Yeah, and she's also, again, a teenager. You know what I'm saying?
She's a teenager.
And so for me, like I don't really see her as disconnected from emotions. I see her as driven. I see her sometimes as like having a singular focus, but she doesn't come off to me as somebody who is has a lack of emotion, or as somebody who is on the spectrum and has trouble reading emotions. That doesn't come off for me. I do think that we have certain expectations of Black women. I think that she's 27 in real life. So I was gonna say, I think that we adultify Black girls as well, even though we are looking at someone who is an adult play a child or play a teenager, 19, 20-year-old. I think that, so like, to me, like, that reading of her feels like an adultification and an added pressure. Let's say she is an adult, an added pressure on a Black woman to have to be show up as 100% everybody's fucking therapist. You know what I'm saying? She, to Tatiana's point, she hid her because she knew it would be an issue. There was a lot happening in that moment. Nobody asked Natalie to go and get him and bring her there, even bring him there, when he meets Natalie and all that stuff or whatever. It was a lot happening. Right. And so she deals with it as best as she can in the moment. We're watching the show. So of course I'm thinking, are you going to say anything else to him? Like, say something else to him or whatever. Right. But it's a lot happening in that moment. And I think that, like, reads of her in this show, I'm not as privy to like the details of her personality in the comics, but in this show, I feel like she shows a range of emotions.
She does show a lot of emotion.
Yeah, and I think the way that people read her or talk about her as having less than emotions is a reflection of the way that we treat Black women and girls in real life, because we don't demonstrate or perform our emotions, our joy, our rage, our hurt in ways that is either expected or desired, or perform these feelings in a way that is somehow in service to the people around us, you know what I'm saying? Or care for the people's feelings around us, or put those other people's feelings first before our own. Because of that, we are then reduced to, they don't have feelings, they don't care. They can't, for her, she's so smart, she can't read, she can't read emotions and stuff like that. It feels like a manifestation of how we treat Black girls and Black women in real life. Because I feel like every episode she's crying, she's laughing, she's wondering, she's emoting.
She is emoting a lot.
Yeah, it's right there. It's on her shoulder. She's grieving. It's right there.
Yeah, because I was telling that person, I was like, well, you have not only seen the 3 episodes, I've seen them all. And then I think there is a realization, I guess, that one of my favorite scenes in the whole series, I think it happens in episode 5. But
wait, save that. Then let's save that.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But
let's just save that.
Just that there's an arc. I think that you have to watch the whole thing to really get a read on not only the decision that she makes, but just like what the character actually does and what changes her.
Yeah, and I agree with everyone. I think that, because we talked about this last week, is that the whole Tony Stark comparison, of course, is going to come up. And even in, like, for comic readers, Reed Richards is another one of these super geniuses who often doesn't have a very emotional output. But I think Riri has a much wider range of emotions than someone like Reed Richards. And while Tony, I think, is very much an emotional character, it's just usually not the right
emo,
emotions.
but he's an asshole.
Yeah, it's not the right emotions for the situation. Riri shows, empathy and, comforts people, all these type of things. Like she says in this episode, I don't want Xavier to see you because I know how he would react. While someone like Reed would not even think of that. He would just immediately show Xavier, the hologram of his sister, like right away. Like, look what I did.
Yeah, like, it's not on some Dr. Manhattan shit where it's like, well, what do you mean? Like
oh, no,
that very blank.
And she's not Spock. She's not Spock. I was just somebody had talked with. I was talking to someone. I was just like, wanted to see what y'all thought about it.
Oh no, definitely. But I do feel like her issues are, one, that she's a teenager, and that she is a super genius and is thinking along lines where she's very focused on things and has a very one-track mind about a lot of things. And so because of that, it does get her into trouble, and it does lead to situations where her emotions aren't really expressed or shown the right way, or it might lead to situations like this.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that wrapped up episode 4. The first thing that like hit me on episode 5 was that when first of all, this was the battle royale in White Castle. I was just laughing.
I love
at
that.
The setting.
People have been upset about that.
Why?
Well, like for people who have seen everything like us, because that was like one of the things where they're like this. They could have fought in I don't know, the Chicago fast food restaurant.
That's a Chicago. I mean,
But
Chicago.
it's also a New York thing. So that's the thing. Are those people who were complaining from Chicago?
I think so. In this instance,
they want them to fight. And what's that? The name of the hot dog spot?
Or that chicken spot?
Or is that Detroit?
Harold's Chicken.
Harold's Chicken. Yeah, Harold's. Yeah,
they want them to fight in Harold's.
Harold's don't have that much room.
That's not tropey at all.
I've never been in Harold's.
It's so good.
That's not tropey at all. What the fuck was wrong with? First of all, White Castle probably paid that bread to get featured. Number one.
But let me. Can I say something about this? So I feel like I don't know. White Castle kind of screwed themselves because she throws up her White Castle. so I was like, oh, they're
which is fitting. Let's be real.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's going to come out threw up my last one end or the other. It's going to come out.
Yeah. Like no shade, all shade to White Castle. I grew up with that and love it.
I love White Castle.
My God, that's
fuck
not
up
good
some
for
White Castle right the fuck
up some
now.
White Castle.
As a Houstonian dog, I'd never like White Castle was the thing that rappers talked about. That was not a thing for me growing up.
Oh, did y'all not have a White Castle?
Oh hell no!
No, they didn't have that. They had Crystals and some other shit.
Where you from? Where you from, Ben?
Where you from? What? Wait, what?
Maybe not you in Houston, but down south they have something called Crystals in some states, which is almost the equivalent to White Castle.
We have Whataburger.
Yeah, well, we're talking about a very particular type of burger. We're talking about that.
A good one.
Steamed.
Yeah, well, not White Castle, but
no, we're talking about sliders.
We're talking about sliders.
Yeah, no, White Castle has sliders. I know. Whataburger has real burgers. They're exceptional.
Right.
But did y'all have sliders? Did you have a place that has sliders?
Nah, not that
I don't think that was a thing.
Sliders was a thing that like it wasn't until like very recently in my life that I was like, oh, okay, slide. You know, like that. You know, no.
White Castle was an up north thing, New York. I didn't even realize they did it like that in Chicago. So when I saw it, I was like, well, that's familiar. But yeah. This fight happening in the, again, I felt like I was on a Tekken stage. I loved it because it was so fucking random and in the hood, like it was in a neighborhood. It wasn't like some random set piece. It wasn't on top of the tallest tower. It was on the ground in a fucking restaurant that happened to be on the strip where you be at. Like that made sense to me.
All White Castles look alike too, so it felt like the one that I've been in. You know, it felt like the same.
So it felt familiar. There's a familiarity there. And remember, I think I gotta say this. The show is very black. White. I'm not saying only black people go to White Castle because they love White Castle in Japan. I'm gonna tell you that. But black people know White Castle, okay? When you see that, especially from a certain region anyway, and when you see that shit, it's like, I know that. I know that place. That's for real.
The first time I had White Castle was I lived in Chicago. I used to work at Best Buy, and we used to have 6 a.m. meetings on Saturdays. And after those meetings, we'd all go to White Castle. So that definitely is a Chicago thing. So it's
You said after 6 a.m. What the fuck was y'all eating, Chris?
They was there in the we were up in the morning. We went to White Castle.
You get them breakfast sandwiches, right? They have
we had the sliders.
No, them niggas was eating cheeseburgers and onion rings at 6 a.m.
Well, it was probably 7:38, but no, I thought it was just funny that White Castle. It was just like it was random, but it wasn't because it was just like, oh, White Castle, you know what they're doing? They're ruining your restaurant, and the lead character is the lead character threw up your food.
But here we are talking about it. But here we are talking about fuck up some White Castle right now.
I had some 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And
the novelty of it.
Fun fact: White Castle has become integral in pieces of Black culture because they helped to fund Telfar. So here we are,
really,
for the first fashion show. So you got to look up that story of White Castle and how that came to be. Like literally, Telfar just asked them, "Would you help?" And they was like, "Bet."
That's dope. It's I just
random.
remember like it just as a kid going to the White Castle on Boston Road in the Bronx. And you could just get what felt like mad food because everything is tiny. It just felt like, yo, we're about to have a feast. I could get more than French fries as a side.
I was so like that's what I mean. But my first experience with White Castle, I was like, what? You know, and they brought out sliders. I was like, okay, this is interesting.
You thought it was nasty?
Well, by the time I ate White Castle, I was only eating fish, so I think I had like
They got fish fillet.
They have a good fish sandwich. They got a fish fillet. Yeah. I'm very familiar.
It's not bad. And I remember the fries. I wasn't like mad at it. No, I was not like, you know. I've only been to like twice in my life, I think. But I wasn't mad at it any time. No.
Yeah.
What's up, y'all? Thank you for watching whatever video you just watched. I need you to hit those like and the subscribe buttons that you see right below you as you're watching right now. I mean, right now. Hit them, and we can get right back to the video you were just watching, like this.
Now that we're talking about this White Castle fight, so I do want to correct myself. Last week when we were talking about the siblings, the blood siblings, I actually misgendered. I was trying to say they for the most part. I was trying to say they, but I know I flubbed a few times. But Jerry Blood is actually transmasculine in both real life and in the show. Yeah, they're non-binary transmasculine person. And I hear it in the and maybe their pronouns were used before. But I heard Jerry referenced as him in the White Castle.
Okay.
I didn't realize that. They so when they though.
Well, perhaps, but when Roz, when they go into the White Castle, Jerry is like, "All right, everybody out. We're closed or whatever." And then when they don't leave, Roz is like, "He said get out," or "He said they're closed." Right.
Okay.
But a lot of us use multiple pronouns or whatever.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's something that, like, even with the one from Madripoor, like they were introduced as they, and then at one point I heard someone say, "Get off her," or "She needs to do this." Or
yeah.
So I was
a lot of us use multiple pronouns.
Okay.
I'm she, they. When somebody days me, I feel warm and fuzzy and cozy inside or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a very important thing. So it's not uncommon to use flex pronouns. It's not uncommon.
I day as many people as I can just because it,
I tried to do
better bet actually.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I tried to do that last week, but I think there was a time or two where I misgendered them. So I want to mention that, and then I in my research of this, in the comics, are they? You want to talk about them in the comics a little bit? Are they?
Blood siblings are blood,
aliens. Are they blood brothers in the comics?
They're. I guess they're aliens. Like their gender might not be. Who knows?
It might not even be
saw them
like that.
Right. Okay. I saw them referenced repeatedly as brothers, so I thought
they're called the blood brothers. Yeah, they're not called the blood siblings. So
got it.
I mean, but they're aliens. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, they're red-skinned aliens. They were created by Jim Starlin, and they're very much alien. They don't ever, as far as I know, even interact with anyone on Earth. So they pretty much just took the name and use it on other characters.
Gotcha.
And I've seen that. I've seen two sides of the story, so I don't know which one is true. Because in the Slug is from Madripoor, and in the comics, there is one Slug that I know of who is this giant fat white man who is a crime boss and fought with Captain America and Captain America's sidekick named Nomad when I knew him. But then someone said that there's another Slug in the comics who this one is based off of. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if they just took the White Man Slug and flipped it like they did with the Blood Brothers, or there's another Slug that is based off of. I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Yeah. There was an exchange in the White Castle again, which I thought just the social commentary of the show, whether overt or not, when what you said, the siblings, they were saying, when the news comes and they talk about your death, and Riri said, "My death won't make the news."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Fuck!" Like for her to have to say that, and then again. That's when it came back again for me, Janicia, when you keep talking about how you have to remember she's a child. She's a child. She's a child. That's when it came back for a child to be saying that. A black child to be saying that. I was like, ugh. Like,
and that also says something to how much people know about her as IronHeart. Like we were saying, like I don't think the whole Wakanda stuff is very well known.
That's not common knowledge.
If it was known, like like the Avengers are known to have fought off Thanos or fought off the thing in New York, I think more people would know about her dying in a White Castle.
Right.
And she's a genius.
I think it'd be known.
Yeah, that's true.
What'd you say, Chris, about a genius?
She was a genius.
No, geniuses getting killed in the White Castle would not make the news. I don't think.
No, I mean, she a Scot? What about was it episode 1 or 2?
She's a black genius though. So it'd be
when she gets recruited.
It'd be like black girl gets shot in White Castle.
I think it would make the local black paper for sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But so she's also witnessed so many people die that she knows how that goes. She
did not make the news.
Right. It spoke to her relationship with death as a black girl from Chicago, living in Chicago.
which
I'm
is
sure Gary and Natalie didn't make
hard.
the news.
Right. And that I thought everything y'all just said, I just thought about in that moment. And then that also made it hard to take, because like she was just telling her truth. And I was just like, fuck, for you to have to even deal with that thought, which is what we deal with all the time as Black people in America. So you
I
know,
did like the fight.
And before we get, I mean, we're talking about it, but like one thing we didn't talk about was the two fight. Well, before the two fights is the mention of Dormammu in the scene. And, you know, Zelma saying that it's Dormammu who's controlling everything or behind the hood. And what did y'all feel about that?
I thought it was funny because we know that's not the case. I already knew from jump that I'm like, that's not fucking Dormammu. Like Strange dealt with Dormammu already. He played his ass.
Yeah.
Oh, how many times he did that scene over and over again against him? Remember in the movie where he
came to bargain.
He just kept bargaining with him like literally maybe 999,000 times or some shit like that. He already played his ass, and Dormammu said, "Get the fuck out of my house." So we knew Dormammu had nothing to do with this. I did anyway.
Dormammu looked like a nigga in one of those Hotep pamphlets. That's how deep the Hotep bullshit can get. Where you're not looking at a comic book, you're looking at a for real ass Black fucking literature. Okay, and it's fucking Black people passing these fucking pamphlets around with aliens and shit in them. Okay.
Anyway. Cult coming soon.
Oh God.
Listen, we got past that, but I just want to get back and I'm going to fast forward a bit just so that we can get through. But really, like, it was several things other things, and more like these realization points, right? Because we're in the heroes arc right now.
There's something big in this episode we need to talk about.
Yeah, something big. So so you mentioned it earlier. Well, no, maybe a few episodes ago, you was just like, the mom asked, "Why are you doing this Iron suit?" Excuse me. And Riri says, "Because I could." And then, she makes her dig deeper. And that's what we're seeing that happens over and over this episode, where it's just like Riri, again, she's going through so much. Yes, she's a child, and it's so much to calculate and interrogate in her mind, in her spirit, about everything happening. And it's stuff that she still has not come to terms with. She has not come to terms with the death of her stepfather, the death of her best friend, the way that whole shit happened, which was traumatic. She has not come to terms with none of that shit and allowed herself to heal from it, or even begin to heal from it. At least that's how I see. She's still suffering deeply from it. And she actually, when her mother kind of pushes her to talk a bit more, she goes into she says the reason why she wanted it. When she says, the paramedics came 1 minute too late. And if I was able to, they was there, right? Because remember, that's her premise when she talks to the MIT people. They say, well, why are you doing this? They said, this is going to revolutionize, the medical industry, or this is going to revolutionize emergency care and all that stuff. It's really because that was her way. She can't change time. She wanted to save them. And this is her, I guess, retroactive way of potentially being able to do something to save them. Like, Riri's whole thing is about, I need to do something. I can, so I should. And in that moment, she couldn't. So now she's been reconciling with that thought for so long since that happened. I'm not quite sure when that incident happened, but she's been reconciling with that this whole time, on top of being at war and this and this and that. So I just think you see that happening a lot this episode. Towards this is also the episode where her mom brings her back to the garage, and Natalie AI shows her that imagery, that video of when Riri was a child, dancing with her father, having the good times. And you see Riri's turn that shit off. At first, she don't even want to deal with it. Again, just not being able to come to terms that it's too hurtful, it's too much. But then being able to sit with it. Go ahead.
I think that's the best scene in the show.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's incredible.
And that's a great needle drop with that Leon Bridges. And I think maybe you guys might have touched on it in a previous episode, but the needle drops on here are really great too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a sucker for dad stuff, especially after my dad died. But that was just a pure moment with a Black man and his kid. That's powerful. And her, and like Tatiana, like you mentioned, her not wanting to deal with it, and Natalie saying, hey, no, you have to face this. You have to see this, because if you forget, what did she say? I forget the line, but
but it was a good line about, you don't want to forget this. Yeah.
Right. It's a powerful scene. And it's and I think, and to our discussion about the emotional intelligence, I think that's where the shift is. And then that's where you see Community come in, you see all that, those really great montages. But I think that's where you see her shift. I think that's where you see her actually come to a realization to want to do better until it's episode 6. But like I really thought that was a powerful scene.
I second that. I thought it was a very powerful scene. And again, this goes to when people have these criticisms of the show where they're like, it's not well written, it's not well directed. And I'm gonna look at this montage. This is really incredibly well done. Having all these characters come back around who were, some of them were introduced like the little boy in the first episode, and to have him come back around and be part of this community that uplifts Riri, and just to show the blackness in that, of a black community coming together. Like you said, the black dad with his daughter. I mean, just super emotional. Just everything was, I thought that was also great. And also a really great contrast to one of my big problems with this episode and how the hood deals with his community. But I'll get to that in a second unless anyone else had anything else to say on that montage scene and all that.
No, it's beautiful.
That's where I really...
Now keep going, Ben.
All right, well, this is where me and Janicia definitely had disagreements or discussions about last week how the queer representation is on this show. And this episode where I was like, well, we could have saved some of that criticism, because this is where I fully agree with you. Like, my man Hood just basically puts the whole queer contingent on the elevator and sends them away. And they do not return.
I'm laughing because it was like
I was rolling on my second rewatch, because that's when I realized this shit. I'm like, wait a minute, they're not in episode 6. So this is the last we see them is get on this elevator, poof.
Literally,
all of
Clown tries on his fit and he says that was the last fucking straw for him. He said, "Fuck no." It was like a Martin episode where he goes,
"Now get the stepping."
Get the stepping. Like, he fucking kicked them all the fuck out and said, y'all can leave.
And they don't they don't show up again to help out Riri. Nothing, it is just like, get the fuck out of this series.
You literally do not see them again. Literally, they even show, like, after Clown presses the button, they show the slow-mo of the
door closing. No, that show is fucking hilarious.
That's enough of that.
Yeah, I think it's right. And again, I have to agree with you, Jay, because like a lot of the marketing has featured them so prominently, where it's really ridiculous that they get sent away like this and how they've been dealt with throughout this whole series. So, yeah, I was like, we could have saved that because, it wholheartedly deserved it in that moment. That was ridiculous.
It deserved it when I said it, but
yeah, true indeed.
But yes, everybody saw it. That was a physical manifestation of that, especially with the elevator closing.
Because it's like you see all their faces, and they're all just staring ahead, and it's just like, goodbye.
I was just like, like I said, the second watch, I was laughing like, damn, they just unceremoniously ushered them out. Like,
I had to text Tatiana, like, yo, hold up, they don't show up again, right?
Yeah, he asked me, and I was just like, nah. I said, after Clown tried on his fit, he kicked them the fuck out. He said, oh, yeah.
Oh, my
it was
God.
Also Clown investigating him, because Clown starts looking into the whole Rampage thing and questions him.
Yeah.
Now, I
love her character. I love her character. Clown to the end, ride or die. I love her.
All right, yeah. Well, And then Clown also tried to blow Riri up in this episode.
She thought that Riri killed. She was told that Riri killed John. She's a rider. You know what I'm saying? And
after
so
John
she was doing what she had to do.
Hey, she's a rider. Like
she's a rider.
Says, she's a
rider.
That was
and she rode that whole. We didn't mention this, but quickly in episode 5, we see her have a code. You know what I'm saying? Because she
does have a code. Yeah,
because she's asked about that white man if he killed Riri.
Yep.
Hood is asking, and she co-signs it, and she knows she watched Riri walk away alive. Yeah, but she knows something weird is up. This is when her antennas go up. This is when it's like, okay, this is not really what I thought it was. This man is not who I thought he was, and so we get into the bottom of things or whatever. I love her
think it's also been shown that Clown enjoys abusive relationships because she burned up.
See, you're gonna make me say something I didn't want to say. I'm gonna have to say it now. I'm gonna have to say it. Well, first say what you mean real quick.
She burned up her ex's car. She's definitely in that type of, where
we don't know what happened with that relationship, but
we do know that was toxic.
Sure, anything that ends in that kind of violence is toxic, but we also don't know what she was getting her lick back for. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know that. I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm just saying. Yeah, I didn't say that.
Toxic.
It's still toxic. In the story, it's still toxic.
Sure, lots of us have been in toxic relationships.
We have,
right?
and lots of us don't burn up cars. But I also think that just John banging her head into the thing, that's where I'm kind of
Right.
That's where you drew the line. Like, is that your brother or
a code or not? Like John, physically abused you. Like that's where I'm like, nah, you don't, like fuck that. Like I'm done with
you
this
also
whole
know how abuse works, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and that's what I say about Clown, where it's like, and that's what I also said about the crew. They were also a crew who was willing to go along with that type of shit.
No, that's not what Tatiana was saying about abuse.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
But what Tatiana's saying, Tatiana, say what you're saying about abuse and how abuse works.
Well, just in the fact that, like, I know what you said. Like, yes, from a logic 1 + 1 = 2 perspective, if someone bangs your head into a floor, you would be like, fuck that. But that's not how that works in that type of relationship. And again, we don't know all the details about Clown, but in that type of situation, and particularly when you are the victim in that situation, you're not going to see it in that light. You're not that doesn't equate to you. If anything, that I'm not even going to say what she may have even taken that as, but the point is that she's not going to come to the same conclusion that you did, Ben, not in that type of relationship, because it could have been a higher, deeper relationship than you knew of. And she's going to give with what you would see as a pass or something like that.
But that's exactly what I am saying. But I also do say that Clown had a problem with it earlier. She addressed John. She was like, yo, this is fucked up. So that's why I'm like, I just don't know exactly where she was. Like, I get she defended Riri in that moment, but I also don't understand why she didn't, more so, have an issue with the whole crew as it is.
I'm gonna say it. I think we're being hard on her because she's a black girl. I think that's the association of her as, I think we're being, of all the characters, right? Of all those villains, right? We'll call them villains. Of all the villains in that crew, she is the one that we get the most amount of nuance and depth with. And I feel, I just don't see how we can see her as, I don't know. To me, she was the most humanized, at least the way that she was written. She was the most humanized. She was given the most depth. And it feels like talking about her, not that we should not talk about black villains as villains, right? Yep. But I feel like we're being a little bit heavy-handed, and I feel like we're being heavy-handed because she's a black girl. Well, this is Chris. I'm talking about. We talked about this last episode together as well. It's not just this episode.
Just from this though, I'll say that they're the henchmen, and I think a lot of them are talented. I think this Sonia Denise, who played Clown, was just good. And because when I saw that moment when Parker was questioning them. And I was like, because in that moment I was like, oh shit, he knows. It's something he knows that she's still alive. Yeah. And then when she said, yeah, we took care of her and we did this and we did that and and I was like, did he believe that? I don't know. But so go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, you were talking. Go ahead.
No, I think sending them down the elevator, I think it's just like a weird way of just like getting rid of the quote unquote bumbling henchmen. Where I thought that White Castle scene was pretty compelling, the way she eluded them and everything, and I was happy that she made light work of them into a certain degree. Yeah. But those are the quintessential
henchmen,
bad people, bad guys.
Yeah, I personally I wasn't tough on none of them. I was just like that they are who they are, and they were chosen for their skill set in crime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, I felt that Clown, yes, she may have exhibited the most, was written anyway to exhibit the most out of all of them in terms of humanity. At the same time, she was also written, in my view, to be a pyromaniac and an anarchist.
Yeah.
And whatever you feel about anarchy is, everybody else's business, but like me, I'm just like, okay, crimes, great. Slug. They off the bat, they said, I'm from Madripoor. Madripoor is basically a land of villains. So I just thought, okay, crime. And then the twins or the siblings, all they wanted to do was fucking have a fight club.
They was founding a fight club and they wanted to build another fight club.
I was like, at least they're consistent. But even in the little bit of backstory we got, they was doing this shit illegally. Crime. So all I saw was henchmen.
Yeah,
and it's not fair necessarily because, again, this was all concentrated within a queer group of people. But that's what I got from what
Yeah,
they wanted.
and
out
I
of this.
think for me, the distinction comes when we start talking about like somebody's character versus them being a criminal versus them being a henchman. Because I feel like what we were shown about her character is that her character is bigger and broader and more expansive and nuanced than just being a henchman. And what some of the conversation has been in the last review and a little bit of this one is about her character. And that's when it starts to feel like we're being a little heavy-handed with her because she's a Black girl.
And I want to move on, but I'll just say, well, I'll agree to disagree here, because I don't feel like I'm being heavy-handed on her because she's a Black girl. I just think that I'm asking the question, like, her character is very interesting to me. Like, John beats on her, but then she's willing to blow up Riri over John. And that's interesting. That's like,
it gives Harley Quinn vibes. I'm sorry.
And I said that last week. And
I don't like that comparison.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like the term reprimanded. I don't like the term reprimanded. I don't like that shit either.
I want to say
something. I don't like it.
That's it's just I was told I was wrong. Parallels. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I believe it's a reductive comparison in my opinion. But I hear you.
You can still just because a character is a bad person or a criminal. It's the same way we liked Walter White. We liked Tony Soprano. Not the same.
Them.
Who is we, my nigga? Read the room. Read the room.
No, Chris.
Read the room, my friend.
For Ben, all you got to do is say Jamie Lannister, and he would have been on your side from Jump Street.
I'm sorry, I didn't watch that show. But the same way critics lauded Omar or any of these characters that were considered bad, who were breaking rules.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you can have empathy for them. You can have compassion for them. It's a testament to the work that these actors are doing. It's not. You can feel everybody has team this person, team that person, but it's these characters in the world of this show. Riri is the hero. These other people, his henchmen, are not.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
And so, it's not called.
I said this too last week. I said Riri's the protagonist.
It's not
and
called
what's the name of the antagonist?
Clown or any of these other people.
I said
it's not called that. You can I like my favorite, the best to me, one of the best actors on the show, Manny Montana, Cousin John. Bad guy, not a good guy.
Episode 2.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I get you. Just to again quickly close this out. This episode, we also see them. She gets to rebuild the IronHeart suit with the dad's. I don't know what kind of car is. Is that a Camaro? Whatever that car is. Hot rod.
Somebody's gonna be yelling.
Come on, Chris, be the man. We supposed to be like, oh, it's I have no idea.
I can tell you how to fix a steak, but I don't know about that car.
I can change a tire.
Yeah, I can do that.
That's about it.
Great. No more showing masculinity, please. They imbue the IronHeart suit with magic, which accidentally erases Natalie AI. Parker's dad is a horrible, no good, very bad man. On top
of looks really fire.
Many things. Yeah.
I want to mention that real quick.
It looks great. Suit. Yeah.
I love the new suit.
Yeah.
Right. Can dress down, but is not quite the best father, because that's what you said. We said it earlier. But
no. You talking about Riri suit, right? You wasn't talking about.
Riri suit was incredible.
Yeah.
We're not talking
about what they did. Nobody remembers what that man was wearing.
He did have a nice tie on. I do remember that.
But he's a horrible father.
He's a horrible father. Let's talk about the dad for a tiny
bit. Is that episode 6 before we get to that?
No, this is episode.
Yeah, we meet him in 5. We meet him in 5.
We meet him in 5. This is when the interaction happens with Parker.
Yeah.
Oh no, because you're right. Because I have my notes when he has an orgasm when he sits down in his dad's chair.
Oh my God.
I mean, he did, He had a real visceral reaction to sitting in that man's chair. It was
because he got everything he asked for, so he thought.
But
I'm gonna have to watch it again. Now.
On second watch,
a third
lot
time.
of things came out on my second
watch. I watched it the second time. I didn't see the orgasm. I'm gonna have to watch that a third time.
He's like,
Hey, yo,
oh my God.
He does.
Chris, I want to go to you real quick, because you said this earlier about trauma being a very center point of this series. We see the trauma front and center with his dad not giving a fuck about Parker since he was 12, apparently. After the mom died, he said, I never really liked you anyway, nigga. Get the fuck out my house.
Yeah.
So
straight up
that
tells him that.
dynamic was way, and I'm just like, is this the Disney thing where they just like all the parents are trash? Like it's so fucked up.
Yeah, it gives you a reason, his reason for why he is the way he is, or at least one of them. His dad didn't love him, and he never got that acceptance because he wanted to be stupid, dumb, rich, and powerful.
He said nasty, get filthy. Something he said greasy rich, greasy. I ain't never heard that.
That was a lot. But you know, he wanted
it like that.
So it was just a testament to that's the reason why he is the way he is, and making him a super villain, his evil ass dad.
I want to know if they get tired of looking alike in real life. Okay, they look like family, and from the moment we saw that man's face, because they flashed to his face in an earlier episode, I'm like, okay,
a lot
so
of ads and stuff. Yeah.
I'm like, so that's his dad. So I knew immediately. I knew immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately.
I didn't.
Yes. You have him, as I said last episode, you have the hood walking around with his African face and his freckles.
No.
Then you show this
right.
random
You said his African nose. Because
I might have said that too, right? His African, but it's an African face that he has. Then you have his black dad show up. This is the only black dad outside of Riri's dad who shows up. Well, he's a black man. He's an older black man with freckles. I'm like, oh, his dad. I knew immediately that was his dad. And then he shows up. I need to see them in a full separate series, being dad and father, because that was excellent casting. My goodness.
It was excellent. He is Puerto Rican and of African and indigenous descent. So
he has a whole African face. So yes.
No, I'm talking about the dad. I know.
Oh, the dad. Yes.
They do.
No,
but I know.
No, Ramos, you're right. They do
Ramos has an African face. Yeah, but they.
But you're right. They do look.
Until you pointed it out.
They do look.
I've been a
like
Ramos hater for so long.
No, you're absolutely right.
I hate anyone involved with
Hamilton.
You know it, brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like hate, pure, unadulterated. Yeah.
Okay. Well, not like you.
But y'all like Hamilton?
No, I just want to know. I want to see your resume and all the places that you work, because I'm sure it's places that are questionable on there. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, I'm just saying we all gotta work.
One of them where I was sitting there making cake, like that off of something like that. I can say that profoundly, and hey, how much cake do you need? Is all I can say. Look.
The dad that I said you was a liability. I didn't want you. Didn't he said them words?
Oh yeah, straight from the I didn't like you. It was really.
I don't want you. Like
it was ugly. It was real. Like it was some of the most disrespect. Like I've heard a lot of bad dads
said I didn't want you.
Yeah, but it was he was just like, get the fuck out of here. Like like you're just like, why are you even here, dude? Like didn't you get the message after 30 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was real disrespectful.
Yeah,
it was intense.
And then it ends, as y'all said, it ends with him getting what he wants, and according to Ben, him, climaxing.
I mean, he definitely has a visceral reaction to sitting in
he
that chair.
does. Yeah. But
thank you.
I think that might just be the influence of what's going on.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I'm exaggerating for comedic effect, but my man has he sits in the chair and he feels it.
Okay, and that leads us to episode 6, the big fucking finale.
Woo!
Who was like to start on this? We finally get to see where the hood.
Let's skip to the the meat.
Well, that is the meat.
Yeah,
that is the meat. We finally get to see where Parker got the hood from.
Yep,
and it's from Borat.
Another person who I'm not the biggest fan of, but I thought he did a fantastic job is Mephisto.
Let's talk about it. Do y'all okay? So you don't like the casting, Ben?
No, I'm not a big fan of him.
Well, okay, fine, but do you like the casting?
Yeah, I thought he did an incredible job. I love his flip of accents, and it made me. I had this in my notes. Is that like intentional to make the devil British? To represent like the British Empire and that type of imperialism thought.
That's a good question. That's what happens in Star Wars, right? All of the Empire, they have British accents.
Yeah.
That's like kind of like a stage standard type.
Well, that started as a stage standard, but then when Andor come along, Gilroy flips that to make it where it's the fact that the British are mainly Imperials and mainly white, etc. Or there's only there's one light-skinned British Imperial we see, etc. So That was definitely using Andor. Now I'm not sure if this show
he
is
did more
doing
than one
that.
accent. You talk about Sacha Baron Cohen as the Mephisto himself. Yes, he does more than one accent.
If it's Sacha Baron Cohen, it's all that shit's intentional because he's a master.
That is true.
He's a master impressionist and of language and all that stuff. So,
what did you think about the reveal, Janicia, of Mephisto and of being played by Sacha Baron Cohen?
I didn't have any thoughts. I was like, all right, okay.
Okay. Did none of y'all feel like finally Mephisto?
Oh, I definitely felt all that.
I wanted to ask you guys about it because the last time I was on here, we were talking about the rollout of IronHeart and how it just seemed kind of lackluster and unceremonious.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to me like, do you all think that Disney Trojan horse this?
Yeah.
Because everybody wants Mephisto. Everybody wanted it, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes and no. Yes, because this is a great Trojan way to do it. No, because they fucked up. Because you could have, I'm not saying you could have revealed Mephisto. You could not have done that. But they could have done a better job of really giving you something better than what we got in the trailers. And not to say Disney ever tells the truth in the trailers, but they give you some more meat. I just feel like they give you something more exciting. And we were always, at least, I know Ben and I would talk a lot about it. Like they're not really giving us much. And they're not trying to overpower the naysayers. It just didn't feel like and I don't know if it's just me feeling that way. It just didn't feel like the energy was there to really be like, let's push this. This is something y'all have to see. There's some crazy shit happening. No, you couldn't say Mephisto. Yes, you have to redirect, but I don't know that. I don't know if it was the way the trailers were cut or what. Like, I just felt like they could have got.
So here's my question then, right? So I didn't necessarily have a hard on for Mephisto coming or going. I'm not super connected to that or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you feel like what we got with Sacha Baron Cohen, did that like satiate what you were looking for in a Mephisto appearance? Because sometimes with Marvel, as a movie watcher, sometimes I'll see a character and I could feel why everybody was hyped for this character. It could be somebody that's not like my jam, but I feel the energy, I feel the vibes, and I get it, and I can, it's context clues and shit.
Right.
This, that's why I said I don't know. Did y'all get what you were looking for from this?
I don't know if I was looking. Well, I think that's the first thing. I wasn't looking for Mephisto. I didn't think that he would be there. And then two, it became a joke because since WandaVision, it was like, oh, Mephisto coming every corner of the internet. It's been 5 years where it was like, oh, that's Mephisto's doing. We about to see him at the end of this episode, and it was never fucking him. So then for him to finally pop up, it was like, oh shit, finally my nigga's here. But it wasn't like I was expecting to see something specific. So I went in there with nothing, if that made sense. Like I just went in there with nothing, and it was like, oh shit, it's Mephisto finally. Great.
That's a big deal, right?
Well, I think
it's supposed to be a big deal, and I would think and when the internet sees it, I wanted to see how they react to it.
Oh, it's gonna be all right. It's to answer your question, Janicia, it's interesting, right? Because Mephisto has been in a lot of comics since I was a kid. He especially really interacts with Silver Surfer. He had a really crazy one. One of the first comics I ever read was Fantastic Four versus Mephisto, and Franklin Richards, their like childhood son, destroys him, and it was really crazy, really dope. But this whole obsession with Mephisto appearing in the MCU to me is some very white shit. And it goes back to that whole, when white people love zombies and white people love devils and things like that. So Mephisto represents the devil. And so that's one of those things, like I was talking about this last week. I quoted Bounty Killer song where I said, before them see God, them see the devil. And it goes back to this because I feel like this is why people wanted it so much, is they just want that devilish thing to be in the MCU. Now, as far as was I getting what I wanted out of Mephisto's appearance, 100%. Because I didn't really need much more than this. I love that one shot they have where I think you see in the spoon, you see Sacha Baron in the full red makeup, so you see him as the red face.
Oh, and the reflection?
Yeah, there's
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, when he's talking to him, it's a spoon or something on the table. It's one shot. They only give you one shot of it.
But there's a conversation with
Riri.
Oh,
yeah. In the final conversation with Riri, when he's sitting at the table, there's a shot of a spoon. I'll screenshot it when when the episodes come out. But there's a shot of a spoon that has Mephisto in the full red makeup. And I think there's been like a behind the scenes shot of him because people knew Sasha was in this for as long as the show has been announced. You know, people have known that he was in it. And the rumor was that he was going to play Mephisto in this. So a lot of people have been waiting for it. And I think that is one of the reasons why Marvel did the release the way they did, is that they did not want this to get out. Like the way they held us from even talking about it to the very last minute. They were scared that some journalists were going to immediately, as soon as the embargo broke, go out and be like, Mephisto's in episode 6.
Right.
They
and
waited
that would
to the
have,
last
you know,
minute.
sucked, you know, for people. So I get that. Because I even saw on the internet, you know, immediately people were, you know, making like, not assumption, you know, like leaning into the knowing that Mephisto's in it. So now that it's out, I thought it was great. I think it's going to be huge for the MCU. I think it's really huge for Ironheart to have this interaction with Mephisto because I think it makes her character much more prominent in MCU. And now we have to discuss the choices that are made, but just as far as her being a part of MCU, I'm glad she made that choice, because if she hadn't, it would have gone back to your Moonlight level where we never know if we'll ever see you again.
I think you kind of answered my question about like that the decision. Can we talk about the decision she made?
Yeah, no, we can. Absolutely. This is episode 6. That's what we need to talk about.
I just thought that last scene was fantastic. Just the way they kept cutting back. I'm like, is this the AI? Is this her?
Is this a dream?
Is it a dream? Like, so she makes the decision. Where does that? Can you? Man, I want you guys to like kind of expound on what you think this will be, and how does that decision fit in the whole MCU, like on a broader scale, or is this just another albatross that is over Riri's back? You know, the decision she made.
I don't know, because like I recently watched the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and the MCU has so many unfulfilled plot lines right now that I don't know where this one will go, because we're approaching Secret Wars. I don't really know how Riri fits into that. I don't know how Mephisto, you know, if at all fits into that. Like Mephisto was actually in the comics a big part of the Infinity Gauntlet, but not so much a big part of, you know, Secret Wars, any version of them. So I don't know how they fit this in and how it expands. I am just, you know, excited to see that, you know, Riri will have this interaction at some point in the future.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ben, because like you, I was just like, this has huge implications for the rest of the MCU. And why when in my first review, I said this show, this is probably the most important MCU show since WandaVision, if not maybe even above that.
It has to be.
It has to be because of all the different doors that have been opened now. Like, and again, like that, I mean, not to say that we haven't seen the magic before, but this is different. The magic with the tech and just the entry point of this, and then introducing such an integral piece of at least comic book history, right? So on my usually like that's where I typically sit. Like, yo, this shit is gonna be crazy. The implications. How to answer your question, Chris? What does that mean for the rest of the MCU? We're in the multiverse. It can mean anything, right? And then on the other hand, I'm like, it could mean nothing, because I have to repeat. It wasn't until this last Captain America movie where they addressed the Celestial in the fucking ocean.
Yeah.
It's been 50. It's been what the lady said on Titanic. It's been 87 years.
That's right? Also got to remember the writer strike and COVID, et cetera.
But writer strike or not, it's just like the niggas didn't exist. Like, it's just so many things. Like, we saw who's the guy we saw at the end of the last Thor movie, who is another.
That nigga ain't never Hercules.
You ain't never gonna see a nigga, and that's like end of the universe type of being. And it's just like they tend to introduce these like not even Earth ending, universe and timeline, you know, shifting characters, and then we're never gonna talk about them again. So I don't think that's going to happen with Sasha, because Sasha does have a lot of star power anyway on his own. And I think that he would throw a fit, and who knows, the deal's probably already done. That, you know, he's going to be around for whatever, how many movies and shows. But like, I don't know. I don't know. This is for me, this is the first time Marvel has come back like strong. And
to me, this hit hard. This hit harder than Thunderbolts for me.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Not trying to be a
you're not trying to be nothing. You're telling the truth. Yes.
Now, I do want to ask this question though, because Chris said his opinion, I think, but How do y'all feel about a black girl making a deal with the devil?
All right, so
yeah,
I'm so glad that
Janicia.
I'm so glad you said my name and said, "Hey, Janicia, what do you think about this specifically?"
Yes.
You go first, please.
I meant to.
Yes,
telepathic right there.
It was for you.
Yeah. So, okay, the identity politic of that, I don't think is inherently a problem. Do I think that this black girl who we watched and her mom is with the woo woo, who we watched get a piece of that fabric of that cloak and bring it, and both of Zelma and her mom, Zelma was like, "Oh, this is wicked. What is this?" And then her mom with the wisdom was like, "Get the fuck out of my shop with this. I love you. I want to protect you. Get away from here because it's not safe, and destroy this." Do I think that black girl would make a deal with the devil? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't think that black girl would make a deal with the devil. So I don't have a problem with what I would have loved and what I was hoping for. I really loved, to Chris's point, I really did like the that final scene, like the back and forth, because we're like, oh, this is a dream sequence. She's obviously going to tell him no, or she fixed Natalie the AI or whatever. So I really liked how they did that. What I wish that they were able to incorporate either in that scene or, if they had taken some of the real estate that they spent on Ezekiel, I really would have liked to feel more of why she would make a deal with the literal fucking devil who had this cloak that two of the closest black women in her life said, "This is wild evil. Get it the fuck out of here." I could see, we understand why she would want Natalie to come back. And we understand that sometimes when you're dealing with grief and love and loss, all bets are off and you do whatever you have to do. But I don't think that this black girl would go that far, where we already know, like, she's been down this road. She saw what was going on with the hood. She took the fabric and had it fucking analyzed. She knows it comes from evil. I don't think this black girl would make that deal. And I feel like there could have been, and I'm saying this as a totally ignorant person who wasn't in the writer's room, but just in terms of a viewer watching the time and watching how things were done, for me, I feel like there could have been a little bit more about why she might, like, the pros and cons, and why she might lean further towards making a deal with the devil. I feel like there's something they could have given us that would have made it make more sense than it does in the show that they gave us. Because in the show they gave us, I don't think that black girl makes this decision.
I see everything Janicia says. I agree with. I also see some duality in it, because they also very strongly gave us the imagery of someone who can be one track minded and wants what she wants. They keep pushing that aspect of her, and whatever you can attribute that to, her youth, personality, whatever, that keeps coming up. And like, part of that back and forth about kind of giving you the sense that maybe this is a dream, maybe this is that. That's Riri's dream to have her best friend back. That's Riri's dream to have been there to do something. That's Riri's dream to have prevented
starts with that.
All of that. Right. And it kind of does a full circle moment. So that's why I said the duality comes where I'm just like, damn, when presented with what you absolutely like, better. The fuck better is essentially what we're saying. And that, knowing what knowing what people just told you an hour ago or whatever it was, a day ago. But it's like, that's the mistake that gets made. I feel like there's always gonna be in our lives as humans, there's always gonna be that one time where it's like, nigga, where did that decision come from? What drove you to that decision? And I agree that I wish they would have gave us more to maybe make it more real that she would have made that, because I still question that. Damn, how could Riri make that decision at the same time? And again, that could have maybe been explained with more writing. What? At the same time, I get it.
Even if Remick, even if this episode's Remick was more persuasive, you know what I'm saying? Even if Mephisto was more persuasive, because he didn't feel like he was giving me big persuasion vibes. I think I would have taken
that about him though, because I like how he was more like, I can do this, but it's up to you. You know, it's like,
knew
but
what
that's
she
how the
wanted.
devil works.
Yeah.
It gives you
He
the
knew
tool.
what
The
she
devil doesn't do
yeah,
it for
that like
you.
because he told the hood the same thing. No, I'm not gonna make you the king of the world. I'm gonna give you the tools.
Correct.
And so it's like that I like that about him, where he didn't have to persuade because he already knows. And it's like that's the thing. He already knows what she wants. And so it's like the ability to give someone that. And then I love that line Riri had. This is something that to go into the whole MCU part of it, where she's like, the past is the past. And this breaks all the rules of what was said in Infinity War and Endgame. Because they were basically like, no, that type of shit can't happen.
Mhm.
Dead or dead, you know, this. And Mephisto, I mean,
Mhm.
he even says it, like, I'm bigger than Dormammu. Like, that's a, you know, that
Yeah.
dude can't lift my ass, you know.
You
So-
know, another part of this that for me actually goes further along with what Janicia said about maybe not this character.
Mhm.
This could have been their version, their TV version of they want an Infinity War moment, or they want a moment where it's like the bad stuff actually does happen, right?
Yes.
It's like people got snapped and no one fucking
Yeah, that's
saw
how I
that
felt
coming.
watching this.
I think this is the
Mhm.
same. Like they wanted to have that moment again because you know they haven't had that moment in a while, or anything that's even built up to that. So this Trojan horse of a show, then putting this character in it, and then saying let's have that moment where it's just like, nigga, they actually snapped. Nigga, you know, the person actually got taken away, or the person actually made this wild ass decision that you would never think they would make or should have made, or whatever the case may be. But the complications of that and the consequences of that is what reverberates throughout the rest of the whole of the MCU. And I think this could have been that. And I don't know whether you want to agree that them doing it in this way. I think they also maybe wanted this moment.
Yeah. Now, whether or not it's earned is,
Yeah.
you know, that can be argued. I definitely can argue that. And you know, I'm not a black girl, but as someone, my first reaction was like, wow, that's not going to go over well. And my second reaction was, I don't know if she would have made that choice, because as someone who's raised, like you said, with this black woman mother who is, you know, very much mystical, spiritual, you know, and has a history, you know, Chicago, I know is a very black city. So, you know, you probably grew up in a black church, et cetera, all that type of thing. And someone who myself grew up in a, you know, I was like raised in a Southern Baptist black church. The idea of making a deal with the devil is insane to me. But then if someone said I can bring your mom back, I don't know. You know, that becomes well, what
you
do
don't
you
know.
want? You know, like, yeah.
And I think I want to give the energy to that. Like you don't, and something like that, then to me is all damn near impossible situation.
Mhm.
You don't know how the person's gonna go. Like
No.
all that experience and life shit can throw out the window immediately.
Yeah.
And then you make the most wildest decision because
And I know my
it's something
mom would
you
be
want.
disgusted, you know, but at the same time,
What you gonna say, Chris?
yeah.
I want to say you all touched on everything, but she's also in pain. How could she make that decision? She's in pain. She misses her friend. And the more compelling choice is to make that deal with the devil.
Yeah.
That we would not agree with it, obviously, but that's the interesting decision. That's what makes it.
Yeah.
That's
What's
why
also
we're talking
interesting about it is just like how the devil normally works. You don't know what form is coming in. So
Right.
remember when even though it was juxtaposed between these two different, you know, scenes, you know, the scene when she's fixing on her suit and all that, that's later. That's after she had already made the decision. And she's fixing her suit, going about her time. She's thinking she's going to be able, the deal worked that she got back Natalie AI, not Natalie herself. So, and like, she was even in shock, like, oh, that's what you meant when you said you can give me what I want. So I think her not even, she doesn't also realize the extent. And I think that's what I'm saying, where it's like, you just make these wild decisions sometimes, not really truly realizing the extent of what you did or what the impact of that could be. Like, it was clear she didn't realize that he meant, no, I'm bringing the person back.
I don't know, because
or was that even possible? She was shocked, bro.
You know, she was definitely shocked. But I think she does know. I think it's more like because time had passed, one. And so I think she just stopped believing that he had given, you know, what he said he was going to do. Because he says death is hard, but I can do that. You know, so she knows what he's talking about. But I think once, because time has passed, her hair changed, you know, her bruise is gone. So it's like, I think that is where it's like, she just did not believe him anymore. And then she continued to work on this AI, continued to work on the suit. And then it's like, it shows up again. So yeah, I don't know. That is.
You think that she really did know what he meant? Like
I don't know. That's questionable.
Not even know what he meant. That he knew, like she really believed that was about to fucking happen.
No, I don't think she believed it was going to happen. That's why I think she did it too. I think it's one of those monkey paw, situations where it's like, fuck it, whatever. This is,
I'm just going to take the deal, but not really.
Yeah, this ain't really the
it.
devil. None of this is real, whatever, And then when it turns up, it's like, oh shit. One thing I did want to say about the whole pizza shop they meet in is called Desperitos. And that's not a word.
It's not.
No, it's not at all.
I kept saying desperado. No, that's not what it says.
Google kept trying to give me despacio. I'm like, no, it's Desperito. And it's not a word, but I think they're just trying to play off desperate and, making it like, I guess, a semi-Italian, Spanish,
It's a place for desperate people. Is that what you're trying to say? That's
Desperitos. But that was also kind of bad to me because it's like, that's like my Spanish.
It's too on the nose.
I'm like, yeah, desperate. I'm in Desperito, that's Spanish, right? That's how it felt to me. That was really like, ooh. But I don't know. I don't know why they went
when you looked it up?
Huh?
It didn't come in when you looked at anything?
No, there is no such word. That's what it came up. There's no such word as Desperito. I tried in Spanish and Italian. It's no such word.
It wasn't Despirito.
No, I paused and wrote it out.
Okay.
It's not a word. One other thing, because this also, like Janicia said, I really...
Oh, wait, sorry. Or is it D-Spirit?
That's what I'm saying.
These spiritos.
That's what I was saying.
But why is the O at the end?
The spirito
Italian, but
See, once again,
obviously,
it's that terrible.
Obviously, to make it Italian, Ben. Okay,
you add an O to everything. Like
but maybe instead of desperate, maybe it's a play on spirit. Maybe it's a D-Spirit.
Yeah, like lost your soul type.
Yeah.
Okay, could be that too.
D-soul, like debuff.
Riri's version of
debuff.
You got debuffed by Mephisto, nigga. Like what happens? And that's another thing. When you happen to make a deal with, when you do make a deal with him, what happens? Don't he own you at that point, like your soul or some shit?
Pretty much.
And is there any And that's another. Is there any coming out? Is there any way out of that?
All right.
Would have liked her to ask more questions.
Yes.
Right?
One or two.
We don't. The other thing is we don't see that whole scene between them. That's why because it's cutting back. She might have asked all the questions in the world and still came to that same decision. And I think it's that monkey's paw thing where it's like you don't really believe it. So you wish upon it, and then the shit happens, and then you regret. But one other thing that I do I hated Ezekiel in this episode. Like
the fact that he just says, "I still got beef with you."
Yes. Oh
that was
my
the best
God.
Thing he had for her.
Terrible writing. Like this is when I can really say no. Like, and even as someone who's been incarcerated, all that, you can be mad about that, but no. Why? Where did this beef even come from at this point?
It's irrational.
But one other thing I did want to point out, because you were talking about him fighting and the whole him being controlled, I thought it was hilarious when when the hood was sicking him on people.
Yeah,
and he's like jumping at them all crazy and shit.
He in the background eating niggas left and right.
He was like, because when he fought Riri, he was not moving like that. And then when he's fighting these people, because I guess it's him trying to resist it or whatever, he's like just doing the most weird, terrible.
He going with Cirque du Soleil on them. Like he wasn't doing that shit before.
Yeah, it was terrible, but hilarious too. So that was my moment where you were talking about Jay, like where you get some more humor out of the fact that this dude controlling him, because that was comedy.
And you guys saw the after credit scene, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So with Parker now seeking help from Zelma at the magic shop, and what's going to happen now? That they're going to be a team now? Like what?
Zelma is definitely another one who makes bad decisions. So yes, I could see that. Like
that's a teenager, another teenager that's like, we're gonna check this out. Yeah,
but it also it wasn't clear to me what his angle was. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't clear to me. Right. Yeah. Right. So there's a lot of gray that we don't know. Is he a good guy now? Is he? We don't know.
Was he on some foul
Marvel
shit
does
or?
End credit scene. So it's like they can whoever writes the next one can decide whatever they want. Yeah.
Chris was trying to say something.
Can we also talk about? I like that fight scene between Parker and
Riri with the hologram.
I really love.
Oh yeah, very fire.
When he
very
had her,
fire,
dead. He thought he had her dead to rights, and she used the magic, that black girl magic, and got him. I thought it was great. I
love that. I love the use of the holograph. Because they've been doing it.
The holograph.
Throughout the whole episode. I mean, throughout the series, and then to flip it on that, I thought that was very dope.
CGI is really great in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's another complaint that people have had. Like, and it's
complaint.
Yeah, people. I mean, because
And for
irrational
Riri
hate,
or for in general?
it's
of
just been
MCU?
irrational hate because people say the action isn't well done. Where I'm like,
No,
every
it's
time
actually one of the better actions from all the MCU shows.
in the story, and the CGI is some of the better from any of the MCU shows. So it's irrational hate that people have been throwing this way towards the show throughout it.
It's crazy.
I want to also mention that Shakespeare made a deal with the devil, and I love that because I'm not a Shakespeare hater, but I'm just a person who thinks that giving any one credit to one person is really wild like that. And also the Ringo Starr of, I mean, is it Ringo? Well, Ringo of the Beatles made a deal with the devil. I'm also
in this universe, right?
In this universe.
Okay.
See, I mean, I think in real life too. I think in real life, definitely, I'm a Beatles hater. So yeah, no doubt about that.
Oh my gosh.
They made several deals with the devil for that matter.
Yeah.
And all of the Forbes 100 are also another great shout out.
Yeah. So, guys, now that we've gone through all these episodes and now we know the whole series, what would you rate the series scale A, B, C, or D?
Oh my gosh.
Me go
you
first.
Could do
I'll say
minuses
B plus.
and pluses. You could say pluses.
Yeah,
and
I'll say B plus, A minus.
Okay, I'm gonna go B.
Okay, Chris.
I'm gonna go A. Black, compelling, locked in. I haven't been this locked in since Jonathan Majors' part in Ant-Man.
Damn, he took it back.
No, I just love the specific of it, like just that part of the
just
movie.
His part.
Yeah, that's about it.
Specifically in Ant-Man.
Yeah,
specifically in
Ant-Man.
I mean,
and what was the series he was in? What was
Loki?
Loki?
Right?
Loki.
Yeah, he was good in that too.
When he was yeah,
Loki was solid.
He Who Remains. Yeah, well, that was wasted.
Has anyone seen Magazine Dreams?
I did. I talked about it last time.
Oh yeah, no, that's right.
Oh,
we'll
look at your figure.
We'll talk about this after the show.
Figurine.
I went
Very
and saw.
cool.
I went and saw it because
We'll talk about it. We'll
talk about it.
That deserves its own episode.
I'm down.
I would rate.
I'm down for that.
I would rate IronHeart. I would give it an A minus. And the minus is only because, again, from the second watch, just seeing the certain things, and it's a minor minus, but it's still a slight minus. Where I'm just like, that was like, could have did that a little better, or could have done without. But everything else I think was phenomenal, from the top to the bottom. So A minus.
That elevator shit was trifling, and Zeke was whack.
I gotta watch it.
And I liked him at first, but just on second watch, it was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And the electric powers was weak. It was like, I got amped up, and it's like Riri should have knocked his ass across the room and been done with it.
But at the end of the day, even though they may have spent way too much time on him, but he still wasn't the main character. It was still much Riri day. So
and it's still Riri versus the Hood, and that was very well done. Their whole main beef was very well done, and they did well by a lot of the side characters. I really will agree with Jay here that way too much time was spent on my man's. Jesus Christ! Especially for
unless
that,
you're gonna do more with him than what we ended up with, which was I got beef with you. I'll see you tomorrow.
I don't care, nigga.
We got real black problems over here. We got anybody worried about beef with you? Get out of here!
Lightning, nigga.
Go
away.
Care.
I'm about to go do a deal with the devil. I got much bigger things on my plate.
Get out of here,
Ben. What's your rating?
Oh, I said B plus A minus.
B plus
definitely.
A minus,
Yeah. Definitely. I was like. And I will say this again, fuck all these haters. Like, fuck y'all from the bottom of my fucking heart. Like, I have, oh my God, nothing but disrespect for you. And I have a lot of disrespect for, like, the one I was going off with today where they said this show is not black enough. And I sent that to Janicia because I was like, I don't even know if this person is black. They at least spell black with a capital B. But then I feel like the other side of it where that sexism comes in so heavy because their first thing was this show is not good. And then when you ask them why, they said the writing, et cetera, and they could go on all day. But then when you ask for specific reasons, they have none. And then when they're like, well, it's not black enough, it leads me to be like, well, no, you just hate women. Because this show is mighty black, and very black enough for an MCU production. But that was their other thing. They were like, the MCU, Disney just keeps using blackness. And it's like, bro, do they really?
I'm sorry I exist.
Did you think that Wakanda,
like, around and breathing?
Like, did you think Black Panther was like, the Disney just using blackness? For real?
They can't see any humanity in us. Like I've said this on countless podcasts that I've been on. Just when I was a kid, I watched all the black people in general, for the most part. We consume all of popular culture.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up like, ooh, Han Solo's cool. Indiana
Yep.
Jones is cool.
Yep.
Luke Skywalker, Superman, Batman. I want to be like that.
Yep.
White people cannot do that when they see something like a Black Panther. It is so hard for them to do the math or whatever it is, the cultural math or whatever it may be, to really connect to a character that's breathing just and pumps blood just like them. So that they're never gonna get it, and I feel sorry for them.
Shout out to all those little white kids who were dressed up in T'Challa costumes. We got video and picture of y'all, so y'all better stay on the right path.
Well, when y'all grow up, we got the
So
footage.
stay on the right path.
That's all
We
I'm
got the
saying.
footage.
We got,
Hilarious.
otherwise I'm gonna come back and be like, nigga.
No, we're gonna come back and say, this you?
Remember when you had sense?
This you? Comic-Con 2023, this you? Thank y'all so much for joining us for this review of IronHeart. We appreciate both of you, Chris, Janicia. Thank you for your time, your energy, your love, your reprimands, all that stuff. We love it.
I reject that terminology once.
Your corrections.
Again,
your corrections.
My feedback. Thank you.
Your feedback. Well, you called me wrong. I mean, I don't know what I don't know.
No.
I don't know what word for that. I don't know. I don't know. Like
and
You were wrong. All of you were wrong.
And Ben, thank you for your apology as well.
That was a great impression.
Thank you for your apology as well, Ben. We appreciate it.
You might have to cut in Chadwick on that. You were wrong.
Do a side by side.
Janicia, can you please tell people they can find you and anything you're working on?
Yes. Thank you for having me. You can always find me over at Tea with Queen and Jay podcast. I'm on socials at Tea with QJ. That's TEA with the letter Q, the letter J. And you can also find me if you want to hit my personal at Janicia F, JANICIAF. And yeah, listen to Tea with Queen and Jay podcast. I'm over there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, and support me on Patreon.
Yes.
I need that money. Okay.
I know that's right.
I'm trying to stay out of the GoFundMe industrial complex. Okay. So so if you want to support me in an easy, passive way, hit me on Patreon. It's much appreciated. It helps me to keep running the show and keeps me off the pole, and support ForAllNerds Patreon as well. And Chris's Patreon. Give us your money.
Yes.
And Chris, with that, can you please let people know where they can find you, what you're working on, your special with Netflix or whomever
Like, whoa. Oh my God.
Look, hey, you're part of the ForAllNerds Circle of Trust
Chris,
now.
honestly,
Things
you
happen.
need to speak that to existence because to Ben's point, the ForAllNerds Circle of Trust, people be meeting higher
Things happen.
heights.
Yeah.
So you have to speak that into existence one day.
What?
You don't even need Netflix. You just need millions of views on
I
YouTube.
just need people to watch it so I can sell tickets. And,
there you go.
And so they can say that guy is funny.
Yeah, but who are you and where can people find you?
Chris Lamberth. You can find me at chrislamberth.com. You can listen to my podcast, The Mundane Festival, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And you just follow me on Instagram at Chris Lamberth. You can see me do stand-up in your town, God willing.
Yep. And ForAllNerds fan, I'm a big fan of comedy, big fan of stand-up. And I went and saw Chris's special, and I really can't wait for everyone to see it. It was really great, really heartfelt. He had some really, like he's talked about on this show, the passing of his father. He had some really great moments in it. And yeah, just, big up for that, man. It was really great. You almost had me in tears a bit there because, my father has also passed. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. No, both my parents have now, transitioned on. So
yeah.
I felt that very strongly, man. It was very
Appreciate
great.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
And again, shout out to Janicia because like she said, we need that money. So make sure you go to that Patreon, patreon.com/ForAllNerds. Please, if you love what you hear, all of this production costs money. And we do what we can. We barter, we do this, we do that. But at the end of the day, we do want to make sure that we're giving you the best of the best. So please support us. You can also support us by buying our merch. You see, both Ben and me and I didn't realize, but me and my brother, we wearing the cowboy.
Oh, we had, I know you was there this weekend, so I had to rep
wearing
for
the
it.
Cowboy Carter, Cowboy Bebop crossover shirt. Yes, this does say Cowboy Kata in Japanese kanji. Please check out ForAllNerds.com to look at all the merch we have. We have like the Gucci Mandalorian, the Lionel Richie, one recently by Mark Lamont Hill on the Joe Budden podcast. Thank you, Mark, for supporting. And as always, make sure you're following us on your favorite podcast platforms. We are everywhere for All Nerds, as well as on your favorite social media platform for All Nerds. Follow me, Tatiana King, him, DJ Ben Hameen. Make sure you're also going to Big DJ Energy to get DJ Ben Hameen's music. He's doing the damn thing every summer like he normally does. Anything else, Ben?
I just want to give a shout out to everybody watching, listening, and in general, like even if you aren't watching the show, tell a friend to tell a friend about it. But I just love to see the fact that IronHeart was #1 all weekend on Disney Plus.
#1 streaming.
That was fucking amazing because I already know that when these episodes drop, it's gonna be through the roof for a long time. But that was really fire to see. Like, shout out to everybody out there. I love to see this love, and I love to see Black people coming together. Like when these corporations don't know what they have on their hands, that we show them what they have on their hands. So that was really beautiful to see.
Yep. And with that, thank y'all so much. We love you. We appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
Peace.
Bye.
Hey, what's up, Internet and the fam? This is Tatiana King for All Nerds, and I want to thank you so much for listening and watching the All Nerds. Make sure you like and subscribe to us only on YouTube.
For All Nerds Show is a member of the Loudspeakers Network, where we always say rest in peace to our founder, Combat Jack.
For All Nerds Show is powered by our listeners. Everything we do, from our podcasts, live events, our website, are all independently funded. Please continue to support us through our Patreon page at patreon.com/forallnerds.